Good evening, it is 5:30. If we could call the regular Board of Education meeting together by standing and pledging the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Mr. Engel?
Present.
Mr. Zappa?
Present.
Mrs. Gillis?
Present.
Mrs. Snyder? Mr. Yacobozi?
Here.
Of course.
I would take a recommendation to adopt the agenda and the addendums that we have received today.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Yacobozi?
Aye.
Mrs. Snyder?
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis?
Aye.
Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye. Item 5 on the agenda this evening would be the good news reports. Mr. Sayers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Engel. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Gibson, our junior high principal. Mr. Gibson, it's all yours.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having us today. I really love being back in front of you guys, just getting to say thanks. We've got two really exciting things to talk to you about today. First, part of our good news report is going to be, we had a really amazing act of kindness from some students at our building that you might have read about in the paper or saw on Twitter. So we have those gentlemen up right here, so you guys can come on up. We're going to have them introduce themselves and kind of talk a little bit about the day that we're celebrating their kindness, and then, we'll go from there. So go ahead.
Jacob Morris,
Eric Spears.
Carson Jeffers,
Baylor Gross.
Connor Riley.
It's your turn.
Oh yeah, Tristan Hoops,
Peyton Thomas.
James P. Summer.
So why don't you guys tell the board a little bit about, how you're leaving school and kind of what happened sequentially, so they can get an understanding for what happened in case they didn't see the articles or anything.
So we were walking home from school and we saw Mr. Earl in his driveway just laying on the ground. So me and Carson run over there and we find out that something is wrong. So we all try to do something good. We get the an ambulance there, and me and Tristan go inside and get the wheelchair, and Baylor takes Earl, and then while I go inside and talk to his wife.
So basically, he had come outside, and I think we have some of Mr. Earl's family here, right? And unfortunately, Mr. Earl passed away. So this past Friday. So our Saturday, our deepest condolences.
Thank you.
With you guys. But he was coming outside, and he had fallen out of his wheelchair.
No, he did. He was walking.
He was walking.
Yes, he was.
Okay, and he had fallen, and the boys were walking uptown, and which a lot of kids do from the junior high. And they stopped, and they're being incredibly humble tonight. I think maybe a little nervous, but they stopped and totally calm, assessed the situation, kind of assured them they'd be okay. Like James said, two of them went inside. They called an ambulance, notified the authorities, and they were able to get Mr. Earl to the hospital, right? And really. We talk a lot at the junior high about kindness and being kind and just doing that when they could have kept walking. They could have thought somebody will help him. There's a number of things that couldn't have happened, but they stopped and they had compassion and caring for another person, which we don't see a lot. They actually said, because we had, Mike, if you hit 2 times, 3 times maybe, we had Mr. Sayers came over, hit it one more time, and the mayor came down. And the boys were really, really very humble, and were like, I don't understand why everybody's making a big deal out of this, and we kind of told them, because you don't see this type of kindness, every day, and especially out of young men, junior high boys who can get caught up in a lot of other stuff. We're just so incredibly proud of them for being compassionate and caring and going out of their way to help someone, and not even being afraid of the situation, like what happens if we get there and we don't know what to do. But they did all of the right things. They did all the things that we'd want kids to do if it was our father or our dad, our grandfather there, and really kind of helped out and saved the day. So, Mike, if you hit enter again, there was an article Jason Hawk wrote that was in the Chronicle that was really nice too. So I think that these boys are definitely a good news report, and just their kindness and sensitivity, I think, needs to be celebrated and recognized. So we appreciate you guys having us here tonight so we could recognize these guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, guys, if you want to come through, maybe shake everybody's hand.
Dan, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would.
Sure.
These young men, unfortunately, my father did pass. But if it wasn't for these young men, I wouldn't have had another month with him. Because my mother had no idea he was even outside. And she's handicapped also, so there was no way she would have known. Thank God of the way these boys were raised and the way that they've been taught in the schools. It's not about you, it's about everybody else. Guys, thank you. You gave me another month that I wouldn't have had. I appreciate it. I commend your parents. You guys are going places, and please stay on that straight and narrow. Do what you have to do, but get somewhere and just soar high, please. And I appreciate everything you guys did. You didn't have to. You could have walked away. You could have kept going, but you didn't. And for that, I am eternally grateful. So thank you. That's all I can give you, but thank you. And I appreciate everything this school system has taught them. I'm a '79 graduate. My daughter's a 2006 graduate. I didn't want my kids going anywhere else but here. So thank you for everything.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So-
Any of you other guys want to say anything? I know we have one spokesperson, but does any other? We don't want you to feel like we wouldn't allow you to. Okay. James, stand up and talk to us.
It's what you should have done if you see anybody that like needs help. You should always try and help them out, even if you don't know who they are. It's what I'm sure anybody at our school would have done, but we just happened to have seen them and came by and helped.
Thank you.
And then our second good news report is about one of our new electives, Design 1, which is kind of like a pre-engineering class that we just added at the junior high this year of Mr. Kordoleski. And I've got a quick video for you guys to watch, and then I'm going to have Mr. Kordoleski come up and talk to you guys. talk about like engagement in the classroom and really invested learning, and I think you see in the video when you look at, especially the girl at the end who comes around, that one ended up being the tallest tower of the day that was successful, and you saw her just smack her hands like, yes, like that's what we want. And sometimes kids don't get that out of language arts or out of math. And what Mr. Kordoleski has really done a great job that we want to kind of celebrate today is if you walk into his classroom, it is 100% hands-on, kids engaged in learning, actively working together and collaborating, all these real-life skills that we're trying to teach kids that are going to help them when they get out into the real world, while also adding an element of engineering, design, math, science, language arts, all of that into one class. He's done such a great job that I wanted to bring him here today to talk to you guys for a couple minutes. So, Mr. Dan Kordoleski.
Eventually, we're going to have, this is going to be the makerspace that we're going to have. So we're going to have the laser cutters, the CNC mills, the 3D printers. We actually just got those up and running today. So I started the class as kind of a experience that I've had with Science Olympiad, where we build different things in competition. So that's kind of the way I ran it. Stressing design, I let them know how if they don't have a design before they start, they're going to burn through their materials. They'll run out of time. So we stress the design in the beginning, and then they implement that. And the bottle rockets you saw in there, they had to design the bottle rockets. We were a week and a half before we even went outside. And then they had the design finally done, and we took them out and they would launch. The towers that you saw, these were 4 pieces of paper, 36 inches of tape, and 12 toothpicks. And they had to design a tower that would hold a can of pop. And they were getting close to 1 meter high with that, which if you measure the ends of the piece of paper, is that's about the maximum you get with just that paper. But they had to design it. And they learned as they would do the design first, they'd put it together and it would fail, and they'd put it together and it would fail. And we went through the designs and what worked and what didn't work. And that's the learning. That's what you're getting from it. You do the hands-on, and then they understand that with that limited amount of materials, they've got to have a plan in place first. And then when they implement it, they're going to get much more out of it. The Mousetrap Vehicles was a really fun one that they did. They got a mousetrap, and they basically had to power a vehicle that was going to travel 6 meters across the floor in the shortest amount of time. And they would compete against everybody else in the class. And I told them a list of materials that I would supply. The rest of it they had to come up with. Almost all of them use CDs for the wheels, but CDs for the wheels, the holes in the middle is too big. So they've got to come up with a way to make that hole smaller so that it attaches to their vehicles and runs really smooth. A mousetrap doesn't have a lot of energy. James, do you have yours here? Yeah. This was one James came up with. Bring it on up. And there's a lot more to these than what people would think about. You've got to take a mousetrap and turn this arm into power to run the car. So what he did on his was basically he has this string, it hooks on the back axle, and it winds up the mousetrap as it goes like this. So when the arm comes up, that drives the car. But you've also got to come up with the wheels, all right? And they run into problems. I think the first time he did this, these plastic wheels that he had on here, that he stole off of I'm hoping it was a broken toy. But when you put it on there, it was spinning out because the mousetrap was actually giving it a little bit too much force. So he took balloons and put them over the car to give it a little bit more traction, and that still didn't give him as much as he wanted. So he put rubber bands over that again to give it a little bit more cushion, a little bit more traction, got it to run. All right. CD on the front, he got one of those little ball bearings from that are kind of like the fidget spinners that you get. So this is much better use, I think, of a fidget spinner. But, so he has that in the middle, and it just happened that the outside of it was perfect to fit inside of the CD. So he got that in there, got rid of friction, because they stress friction is the enemy. So basically they keep designing, they work with it, they find problems, and they solve the problems in the plan, and then eventually after this was about 2.5 weeks, after about 2.5 weeks, then they do the competition. So now that we're getting this equipment up and running, I'm going to try to have kind of a hybrid where for the problem solving, we'll start using these machines that we have, the laser cutters and the 3D printers. We did manage to get, I had an old 3D printer that I had from Science Olympiad, so some of the groups managed to 3D print little pieces to put inside the CDs. All right, and that's kind of more what I want to get to, is a hybrid of this type of a design class with them using these machines to problem solve and get those skills going, which is really going to get them going a long way in today's market. All right, that's it.
Questions?
Any questions? No? All right. Yeah.
I have decided next quarter will we have every like machine that we need.
3D printers for sure, laser cutter at some point, and the vinyl cutter will for certainly be up. But we just got, I just actually hooked up the 3D printers today, that's why I didn't get home till 4:30. But yeah, we got the 3D printers up and running, so like when we do the Mousetrap vehicle the next semester, that's going to be something that I offered the first 9 weeks was I gave a bonus if they used the 3D printers to solve a problem in their, and used it in the car in the way that they designed it originally. So that's kind of what I'm after. So yeah, those will be up and running. All right.
Okay, great.
Just want to thank you guys again for all of your support. We can't do these things at the junior high without you guys' support. So we really appreciate that, and want to thank Mr. Sayers for letting me borrow his iPod so I could get that music for the video. I came straight from Mr. Sayers' iPod. I appreciate that. So, thanks for having us, guys.
Okay. Item 6 would be hearing of the public. No one has signed up this evening to address us. So we would move on to item number 7 on the agenda, which would be the treasurer's report.
Good evening, board, members of the audience. There's just a few things I wanted to present to you this evening. You have seen the report in front of you that has green shaded boxes. This is a month to date, and on the rightmost side, fiscal year to date, statement of expenditures on the bottom and revenues on the top. And then we have cash balances along the bottom. Just wanted to point out some favorable variances that we're experiencing right now. The first two revenue lines, line 1.01 and 1.02, which are real estate and public utility personal property. Those collections are both coming in over last year. And then in the other financing revenue, lines 2.01 to 2.08, where you see $528,000. What I wanted to point out is that, yes, there's a favorable variance over last year, but $189,000 of that is insurance proceeds for the water damage for the Powers building. So we will see a corresponding expenditure for that at a later date. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then fiscal to date revenues in the rightmost column, or excuse me, expenditures in the rightmost column, you'll see line 2, 3.02, employee retirement and benefits, has a favorable variance over last year, as does supplies and also other expenditures. And then looking at the bottom line for cash balances, you'll see that we are building cash balances compared to the Novembers of the 2 prior years. But I do want to say that we are in the normal cycle of declining cash balances. We're eating into our cash balances right now because we're waiting for real estate collections, which will be coming in February. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then on a completely non-financial matter, you are all aware, you were all here last month, and the retirement of our benefits and records secretary was acknowledged by the board. We are entrenched in the process right now. She is retiring February 1st. And we are in the process of screening and testing candidates for the vacancy. There were 36 applicants for the position. We have screened 12, and we have begun testing candidates today. The testing was a manual arithmetic test, a lot of grammar and punctuation, as well as an Excel practice. Exercise, yes, thank you. And then we have identified a very aggressive timeline. We do want to select somebody by the end of this week and hopefully have somebody sitting with our Veteran Records and Benefits Secretary by January 6th. So it is definitely an aggressive schedule, but that is a position where we need the newbie to spend as much time with the veteran as possible. So, and then I wanted to bring to the attention of the board item 8F, under the recommendation. I just wanted to explain that a little bit. It's a larger, longer resolution than what most people are used to seeing. As two of our board members who are on the facilities committee understand, and we're at the core meeting on Friday, we are requesting the board to permit the transfer of local share interest earnings from Fund 10 to Fund 4. In the transfer and the appropriation of the $415,000 that we currently have in interest earnings, we will then appropriate that and pay from the local interest prior to expending any general fund dollars. So I just wanted to explain that. The entire resolution is attached as an exhibit, but it is very lengthy. It's 2 full pages long. And just wanted to explain that it's a very prescriptive process. It's written into Ohio Revised Code, what we can and cannot do. And once the board acknowledges and approves this transfer, I will certify that resolution and send it down to the Facilities Commission for their acknowledgement, and then we will be able to do just that, spend those interest earnings prior to spending general fund dollars.
Amy, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I think you said from Fund 10 to Fund 4.
Yes.
This says from 001.
It is 010.
Okay.
The 010 fund. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm assuming the board allows me to make that change to the resolution, and it will be reflected in the minutes.
The 415, is that the local only?
Local only.
Okay.
We are still waiting to find out what we can do, what we can use, if we can use the state share interest earnings, which sit at about $152,000 right now. The way the project agreement reads is that we should be able to use the state share interest earnings in the same pro rata allocation as what we are using the regular co-funded amounts. But we do not have that prescriptive process yet back from the Facilities Commission.
So it wasn't in the contract?
The way the project agreement is worded, it appears as though we can use the state share interest earnings in the pro rata allocation that we do the regular co-funded amounts. But we're waiting on some information from the commission before we pull the trigger on that. Okay. And then that is all for my report. Then if we want to move into recommendations.
Please.
And I don't believe I have anything to add other than that resolution being out of the ordinary. It's pretty much business as usual for the treasurer's recommendations.
So we would entertain a motion for items 8A through J, is that correct?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion or comments. I would just point out that we would certainly thank the Sayers family for their $6,000 donation for the purpose of providing scholarships to graduating seniors and to also assist with anyone who cannot afford field trip fees or pay to participate in the fees. The Sayers family has done this for the past 4 years. So we want to thank them as well. We would want to thank downtown Main Street, for the $100 donation that they gave to Steel News Live for their telethon. You know, that's a great program, and we're glad to see everyone support that. We'll also thank the VFW for their $500 to Powers for the positive behavior intervention support program that they are helping to do as well. So, and the community college donation for an exam table for the athletic department. Okay, I just think it's important that we do thank the folks in the community that support us in ways other than what we asked for. So, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis. Mr. Yakobozzi.
Aye.
Mrs. Neidert.
Aye.
Mr. Zappa.
Aye.
Mr. Engel.
Aye. Item 9 would be the superintendent's report. Mr. Sayers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Engel. Just a report this evening consists of an update on the building project, which everybody's talking about. Things are going very, very well. We actually had Beth Schwartz and her staff at Powers have put into place field trips, individual field trips for kindergarten, which was today, first grade tomorrow, second grade Wednesday, and third grade on Thursday. And the idea is to help with a mid-year transition. And so students can see their classroom, can see where the lunchroom is and what that procedure is like going through the serving line. And they were there this morning, had a little snack in the cafeteria, but I have to say it was a neat experience to be there, and the staff, the students, the construction folks were there. It was to see the smiles and the excitement of these little ones. It was absolutely incredible. So again, that's going to be taking place over the next 3 or 4 days, which should help with that mid-year transition. Work is ongoing, still doing some work in the middle portion of the building that was damaged with the water back in late October, but we are on track and on schedule. As the board is aware, our pre-K through 3 students will not have school this Friday. Our staff will be working at the new building all day, and so that should be very helpful. And then Mr. Grimmett and his team continue to move materials day by day to the new building, and in that process will continue from the 26th of December through the 28th. So the hope is that by the 28th, the end of the day on the 28th of December, we basically have everything we need to get things going here in January. And then, of course, as the board is aware, we have an all-staff meeting at 7:30 on January 2nd, and the staff will have a couple of days there in the building to prepare their rooms and make sure everything's working correctly, those types of things. And then, of course, the dedication on Sunday at 2 p.m., and then the first day with students on Monday, January 6th. So, again, just want to reiterate how much we appreciate kind of the team approach to this whole thing, and the fact that we're still able to start on time in January, given this water leak, is really nothing short of a miracle. And it's really a credit to our construction folks, our architect, the insurance. Everybody has just kind of pitched in and made it a priority, and it appears to be coming together. So exciting times here in Amherst, and that concludes my report for this evening.
Did you say what time the dedication was, from what time to what time?
Yes, oh, thank you very much. Thanks for the reminder, Teresa. One of the things we have, we've actually had so much response, I guess, and so much excitement about this building, and so many people. Just yesterday, I ran into 2 or 3 people who don't have children in the schools, and they were asking about the school, and when can they see the school, and all those kinds of things. So at the suggestion of 2 or 3 different folks that we've talked to, as well as just some general feedback, talking with Mrs. Schwartz, we've decided that it might be in everybody's best interest to extend the window. Instead of limiting that from 2 to 4, we'll still have the dedication at 2, but we'll open that window up, and that window will extend to 6 p.m. So a lot of folks just want to stop by, they see the building, see the classrooms, So by opening up and expanding that window, it should help in terms of managing the large numbers of people that we're anticipating that day. And we're going to start publicizing that first thing tomorrow morning. So, but thank you for that reminder.
Any other questions? If not, we would move on to the Mike Molnar.
I just want to continue the good news. I know there's things I could talk about, but I just, as we approach the holiday season, I just want to say, you know, as we heard earlier, that, you know, we live in a great community, and we have we're so blessed to be in this district, not only with the leadership, superintendent, and the board, we have amazing teachers, we have great parents and students, and so we're just very lucky to be here. And just at Rotary today, you know, both Steve and Amy and I were at Rotary today, and the Madrigals from the high school were there performing, and they just did an amazing job. And we had 3 students from the MedTech program who are also in their Interact program talk and present. And just knowing, you know, they went to the, just amazing what kids can do. And while we're all going to be kind of on break or enjoying holiday season, there's still going to be kids who are going to be, you know, at practices and tournaments and games. And seniors are applying for colleges. And every senior I talked to, not one has said I didn't get in. They all say I got in here, I got in here. And they're making decisions on all that. So I mean, we're just so blessed to be in this community, in this school district. And we're all going to come back from break and go to a brand new, beautiful building and be the pride of the county. So I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. Have a Happy New Year. And just be blessed and have a good time with your family. So just thank you to everyone. Appreciate it. That's my good news report. Be my corner.
Hard act to follow.
We're gonna ask you, Rex.
Yeah, please ask.
I had a couple of things, but I'll keep them until January. JBS report. JBS is wrapping up first semester as well, almost here. The cookie sales are complete, Teresa. Okay, the poinsettias are almost complete. Everything is moving right along. There's been several visits already, and then the big visits are scheduled in early January when school comes back for sophomores to go. I know that Amherst has always been very supportive of the JBS and sending their students there, and I think that you've seen some good products come out of the JBS. Again, we've had some questions about the status of the funding or a different levy. There has been no decision made on that, and I don't think there will be a decision made on that until after the board reconvenes sometime in January, just because we don't know who will be on that board for sure in January, because there's a potential of 4 or 5 people that could be switched or changed, and so we will just keep you posted on that. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to answer those questions from that perspective. If not, I don't have anything further from that. I do have just a couple of thank yous I'm going to pass around that the board has received from the teachers, retirement teachers luncheon that was held a few weeks ago. So I would pass those around for you to look at. The other thing that you all received electronically, I believe, was a draft just for you to look at for 2020, okay? The recommendations of committees there and all of those things. We will not take any action on that tonight. We will take action on that when we have our organizational meeting, but if you have any questions or concerns about any of those things, you certainly need to let Mr. Sayers know that. I know that there's been a concern about some dates of meetings for next year. Historically, the Amherst Board of Education has always met on the 3rd Monday of the month, which is exactly what is on here. We had a board member who came back that had some conflicting dates, so you need to be thinking about how we want to handle that. If we want to make a change, I would say publicly right now that if we're going to make a change, we may want to consider making the change so that it's the same, so that we don't have so many different dates that they're sporadic. So give that some thought so that we can be prepared to discuss that in January from that perspective. Is there any other report that I'm neglecting or not bringing to the attention of us this evening that we need to hear about? If not, we would take board recommendations. Item A would be to appoint myself as the president pro tem to preside over the meeting, organizational meeting on January the 13th. We would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion or comment? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Snyder?
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis?
Aye.
Mr. Yakobozzi?
Aye.
Mr. Zappa? Mr. Engel?
Aye. Item 12 on tonight's agenda would be personnel recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Engel, and a number of items there. I know the board's had an opportunity to review and look over these items prior to tonight's meeting. I did want to highlight items L, M, and N because they kind of go together. I know Doug and Mike and Amy have kind of worked together in leading us to this recommendation, but essentially there was a need that developed to develop a position in our technology department that lies somewhere between tech aide level and a technician level. And Doug has developed a job description, which you see there, that we are recommending. We've also developed a salary schedule, and we're also recommending that Andrew Baker move from his current position of tech aide into that new position of technology assistant at step 3. So that is a recommendation that's a little bit out of the ordinary, but I wanted you to have the background and the history to that. And essentially, Doug looking at kind of restructuring services and those technology services and how we better support our staff. And I believe, yes, that pretty much covers the personnel items, and at this time, we'd like to recommend approval of items 12A through 12N.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on those items. Is there any discussion or comments on any of those items?
Yeah, Steve, can you
Yes.
just explain, just so when people are looking at this, that they understand why the Board of Education is voting for a library trustee?
Yes, Amy, do you actually, it's funny, we just talked about this because, was it last month or 2 months ago? The bond issue, right?
Yeah,
The
right.
library bond issue
Right.
appeared on one of our agendas. You can probably speak to that better than I can, but it's a fiscal, we're essentially the fiscal
Yes.
agent for the library, as I understand it. And it's-
As there are different types of school systems, a local school district, exempted village, or a city school district, the same goes for libraries. Libraries can be a city library, a county library, or a public school district library. Our library is a public school district library. So we don't, as a board, really have any oversight over them. They have their own board of trustees, but there are certain things that our school district board is required to acknowledge, more as a formality than anything else. Among them, for instance, their tax collections used to run through the district. That has changed, and they receive their tax collections directly nowadays. But we still acknowledge any of their bond paperwork, their bond issues, and their budget, and something like this where we are placing a trustee. It's their request, they've picked the trustee, but our board is acknowledging it. So it's written into Ohio Revised Code in that manner, it seems.
It's really kind of a quirky
Yeah.
way that it works in the law. It's the way the law tells us we need to do it, so we do it that way.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Yakobozzi?
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis?
Aye.
Mrs. Snyder?
Aye.
Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye. Item 13 would be educational recommendations.
Yes, thank you. Just 5 items here. Excuse me. I did want to highlight item C because, again, a little bit different than what we've had in the past. Typically, in the past, our commencement has been in the 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And as you see, this recommendation is for a 12 noon commencement. And in checking with Mr. Tellier, we found out that we are actually the only school that has commencement that particular day, which is rare because oftentimes we're one of three in the same day. So our two choices were 10 o'clock in the morning or noon, and Mr. Tellier went with noon. So again, I wanted you to have the history as to why that's maybe a little bit different than what it's been in the past. And with that, I'd like to recommend approval of items 13A through 13E.
So moved.
Yeah. Oh,
Because of the
so sorry, I missed it. Actually, I was scribbling notes off to the side here, and I covered up F. Yes, thank you. I did want to mention F to policies. Thank you, Amy. We had Valerie and Ron, I know, helped us a great deal with our policy committee, and we have a number of policies, as you can see there, that we're recommending for your approval. And again, just wanted to reiterate that 99% of the time, the policy updates, the policy recommendations are items that Neola presents to us so that we can stay current with what's happening with Ohio law, federal law, various legal cases, that type of thing. So again, just a number of policies. We do this twice a year, and we're very grateful for Neola's service in really doing kind of the background work and the light work in making it very user-friendly for us. So again, thank you to our committee for reviewing those. And with that, would like to recommend approval of 13A through 13F.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or comments on it?
I have a question. On the time of the graduation, will we be able to keep that going forward now? Wasn't it in the past, there was people ahead of us that we couldn't jockey the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll check with Mr. Tellier on that. I don't know how this will impact 2021.
Well, I would say it would, because aren't we signing it for 2 years? No, just 1 year on this one?
The prom.
The prom was 2 years. I knew the one was 2 years.
I'll check, and I don't know that for sure.
But I would say that we should have the first right to pick our time.
As long as we want that time going forward.
Since they are not doing it.
I would think that would be the way it would work. And it is night, the noon, I can't remember having a noon time slot before, but the nice thing about that
No, we've never had.
is that, it does leave a good portion of the day after.
There were times we had 4 o'clock slots.
10 o'clock, you can even have more time.
Yeah.
Then you have kids getting up early, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I think originally we were at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I always remember afternoon.
Always later on, yeah.
And it was like 4, and then we got to 2, now we got to noon.
Teresa's hoping for 10.
8 o'clock, 8 o'clock? No, just kidding.
I'll
Okay.
check on that for future years.
Any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Snyder? Aye. Mrs. Gillis?
Aye.
Mr. Yakobozzi?
Aye.
Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
And just on business recommendation, the approval of item 14A.
So moved.
Any questions on your Pitney Bowes postage meter? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Yakobozzi?
Aye.
Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Mrs. Snyder? Mr. Engel?
Aye. Item 15 would be adjournment. Take a motion. Motion and a second. Any discussion or comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Mr. Zappa?
Aye.
Mrs. Snyder? Aye. Mr. Yakobozzi?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye.